today we are going to be checking out some paintbrushes. These are Master's Touch paintbrushes. I got them at Hobby Lobby. There's a couple that I've used before that are just my favorites, but I needed new ones. So I figured I'm just going to buy some new ones and try them out brand new and see what I think about them after using my old worn out ones. And then there's a few that I have not used before. This one, and these two, which we're just gonna see what they do. They range in price from, let's see, $10 to $18, but at Hobby Lobby there is frequently a sale, so you can usually get them for about half the price, typically. So this was $5. This was real expensive still. This is the $18 paintbrush, but hopefully I love it. Okay, so these are all, I believe, synthetic. Well, this says golden Taklon, which honestly, I don't know what that is. I'm not sure. Maybe I should find out. And then the rest of these are synthetic hairs. So we are going to open them up and paint with them a little bit. First up is the synthetic Hog Brush that was $14.99. This one I use pretty regularly. It, you can't see it because it blends in with my hand. It is more of, it says oil and acrylic. I have a lot of brushes like this for using on watercolor too, the shape. And I really like it for painting, I don't know, flowers and things. Also, I'm just using this inexpensive Master's Touch acrylic. It is something that I've used before, so I kind of know the consistency of it. I know what it feels like, and so we are just gonna go for it. So I'm using this bigger one. In a minute, I will use the smaller version of this to kind of get a comparison. And this is just a cheap canvas that I got at Walmart in like a multi-pack. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm just doing a line of paint and I'm going to kind of brush this out. I'm gonna get my brush wet first though. I prefer painting with a brush that's already a little damp. And we're just gonna see what this brush does. Yeah, okay. It was definitely time for a replacement, I can tell you that much. My old brush is a little bit worn out compared to this one. So this gives me some cleaner lines. And I really like the way that this works. So, yeah. So, like I said, this is the Master's Touch Synthetic Hog Brush Series 700R16. Series round, size 16. And it was $14.99, but I got it on sale for half off because Hobby Lobby does that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the same style of brush, but it's a little smaller. So this is the same series, round 700R, but this is size 14. So it just makes it a little smaller, which is great when you're painting smaller things. And this brush was $12.99. Can't see that very well. So $12.99 for this brush, and again, half off. So it was not $12.99. It was $6.50 or whatever. So I'm just getting my paintbrush wet, and then I am kind of wiping it off on the paper towel to get some of the extra water out of it. I'm going to go and I'm going to use this same. This one doesn't, I'm not sure why, it doesn't seem to Maybe there's not enough paint. Maybe I'll throw a little more paint on there. It doesn't seem to give me the same edge like the bigger paintbrush did. So this one has kind of a cleaner edge. This one is a little more unpredictable, which is okay. It's just something that's good to know. Okay. Interesting. This brush seems to be a little bit harder to control, which is surprising. I wasn't actually expecting it to be harder to control than the bigger paintbrush. I can do a lot cleaner lines with the bigger paintbrush versus the smaller one. That's intriguing. I wasn't expecting that. Okay. All right. Moving right along. I am going to use the golden Taklon. Again, I don't know what golden Taklon is. 1500 angular shader. This was $11.99, or not $11.99, $6. And this is the 3/4 or 3/4. I don't know. Oh goodness, this one doesn't want to come off out of its package. So this one is a different shape. It has shorter bristles. I have used very similar brushes to this before, but the bristles were longer, and then I had one that was narrower, but I haven't used this particular size before. So here we go. Get a little more water on there. Okay, so this one I can get pretty straight lines with. Like I said, I've used this one before. It's a pretty straightforward brush. For this one, the bristles are really easy to control. It's really soft, and the paint it doesn't hold a lot of paint, and so you have to either get more paint or get your paintbrush wet to kind of revive it. Okay, so that one's fine. It's a great paintbrush. All right, this one is much larger than that one. It is also an angular brush. This one, though, so this paintbrush is a bit larger. It's a firm synthetic brush. It just says synthetic brush. It's not trying to imitate anything, apparently. And it was $17.99. This is the most expensive brush, but I don't know if you can see it. There are a couple of loose little hairs here that when I bought the brush, all of the brushes had this. So I'm going to paint with it, but I probably will end up trimming these crazy hairs off because I don't need any crazy hairs. Okay, so this is just a black brush. It is this one, WL1618-1, angular shader, size 1. Size large, it's big. I do some larger canvases, and so I thought that this might be kind of a nice brush to try out for some of that, just to get coverage. Ooh, I like this. Okay. So I'm like I said, I'm probably going to trim off those hairs, but I like the effect that this has. I am going to, okay. I'm going to set this canvas aside and I'm going to paint on some watercolor paper just so I can get another feel for this brush. I really like this brush. I may have found a favorite, guys. Wow, okay, this is neat. I don't know exactly why it does what it does, but I like what it does. So, wow, that's very cool. So one of the things that I'm noticing is with this one, what I'm noticing with the larger one is that it's creating these very smooth lines. And when the paint runs out, it's still very, very smooth. With this other one, the smaller angular brush, it almost creates like, it's more broken up. It's not so smooth as it runs out of paint. So this is the smoothness, and it really blends together nicely. And this kind of has like a break that I was expecting the bigger brush to have too, and it doesn't, which is kind of neat. So those are kind of the standard brushes that I have used before and have experienced and know what I'm doing-ish with them. I have one other brush, which I have not used anything like this brush before. So I'm going to grab a new canvas and then try out a new brush. Okay, so I'm actually very excited about this paintbrush. I don't honestly know why I am, but I am. This is that golden Taklon type hair again, though. So this is the same hair as that brush that kind of, as the small angled brush, which kind of gave an interesting breaky up part, which I didn't really love. So this one is a Dagger Striper, not really sure, Striper. We're gonna go with Striper, because I think Stripper would have two-piece. A Striper, we'll say. So this is series 8050. It's the Dagger style, and it is size 3/8. So this one should be fun. I have not seen a paintbrush like this anywhere before, or at least I've never noticed one. This one was only $10, so I only paid $5 for this brush, and it's very, very cool. You can kind of see it has this really interesting angle here, and it's very narrow. I don't know what it's gonna do. I'm actually, instead of putting paint directly on the canvas like I normally do, I'm gonna put it over here and then see what it does. I don't even know how to paint with this. So, let's see. See, look, so this one breaks up the same as that other style did, which isn't my favorite. So I'm going to kind of work the paint into the bristles a little bit more and see if that helps it. Okay. In theory, I like it. I'm wondering if I can get this style of brush in the full synthetic, like those black bristles from the larger brush earlier. I'm wondering if I can get it in that type of bristle so that I can love the brush, because I like it. It's a cool brush. I don't love it. I don't love the way that it kind of breaks up the paint like this. I would really prefer it to be a smoother, type of application, I guess. I'm going to add a little bit more water. My water is bright blue right now. So it works well if your paintbrush is wet, and if your paintbrush stays wet, it gives a really clean line if there's a lot of water on it. So that's nice. I can get really, really fine lines with it. Also really nice. Okay, well, overall, I'd say this brush is pretty good. It does fun stuff. It paints kind of in a fun way. And overall, I'd say it's pretty good. I tested out 5 brushes. They each had different pluses and minuses, I guess you could say. And I am going to kind of give them a rating, I think out of 5, of whether or not I'd recommend them or not. So this one, it's the size 16 round brush, normal price is $15. I got it for $7.50. So this one is synthetic hog. I think it did what I expected it to. It held the paint really well. It was easy to control. It wasn't anything fancy, but it did exactly what I expected. And so I would say that this synthetic hog round brush, size 16, for $15 or for $7.50 if you can get it on sale, would probably be, I don't know, probably 4 stars is what I would probably rate it. Just, I think partially because if you have to pay $15 for it, that kind of sucks, because I don't like spending money on things sometimes. But for getting it for $7.50, I think that's fair. So this one, moving on to the size 14 round brush that's also synthetic hog, same style as the first one. I'm going to rate that only 3 stars, honestly. It didn't hold the paint very well. It was hard to control. I didn't love what I was able to do with it. I was actually a little surprised that it was harder to control than the larger brush, even though I use these brushes all the time. I'm not sure why I hadn't thought about it, but it's kind of funny. Normally when I'm painting, I use the bigger brush just on instinct, not on me thinking through anything. It's just what I navigate towards. And so maybe there's something to that. Maybe I was just grabbing the brush because I instinctively knew that it was a easier to control brush, one that I enjoyed more. I'm not really sure. So yeah, I think 3 stars for this size 14 round brush. Moving on to the golden Taklon angular shader, size 3/4. I didn't like this brush. I think that it's okay. I think that I've used brushes that were way less expensive, that were not $12, that I actually really loved, that I got for a few dollars at Walmart, and they performed equally as well, but they were full synthetic and weren't anything else. And they worked really well. They held the paint really well. They gave a really smooth application. So I think depending on what you're trying to do with this brush, it is probably is a fine brush for what I like to do, it didn't perform. So we'll see once maybe the bristles loosen up a little bit or something. I'm not really sure. It's, I don't know, 2 out of 5 stars, I guess. Okay, so moving on to this firm synthetic brush that was $18. I love this brush. I am so surprised at how much I love this brush. Actually, I thought that it would just be a brush that was kind of like, meh, it'll get the job done sort of a brush, which honestly, if that's what I was thinking, I shouldn't have spent $18 on it, but I'm glad that I did. It actually works really, really well. It's a really beautiful finish, really beautiful application. It does, I will say that it does do kind of a streaky line look. So if you don't want that look, don't get this brush. I personally love it. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I love the way it looks. And I am really excited to use it on an actual painting where I'm trying to create something really beautiful. So I'm going to say 5 stars on this. I think it's a really fantastic brush. Full synthetic. That's not how you say that. Firm synthetic brush. It is the angular shader in a size 1. It was $18. I must have gotten it for $9. I think it's awesome. I think it's so great. Okay. Last one, which was the one I was most excited for, was the Golden Taklon Dagger style, which there's some paint left in there, which is a really cool brush. I like the way that it paints. I like the clean lines. I think it's going to take a little bit of learning to figure out how to really use it to its fullest potential, but it's a really neat brush. I am very happy with it. It's similar to the angular shader in the way it holds paint. However, if it's really good and wet, it kind of spreads the paint really nicely. So that's just maybe something to remember for all the Golden Taklon material brushes, is that they need to be a little bit more wet in order to use them well, which this says oil, acrylic, and watercolor. So maybe that's why, is because it's meant to be used for watercolor as well. Whereas some of the other styles of brush are just oil and acrylic. So they hold a heavier bodied paint better. But I'm excited to use this one more as well. I like the clean lines that I get with it. It gives me a lot of control, and I think I'm going to like the fine lines that I can get with this better than I like some of these smaller detail brushes, especially when I'm going in on a large canvas and trying to get clean lines on a large canvas. This will give me some really nice control on things. So I am excited. I'm going to say this is a 4.5 out of 5. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's really fantastic. The only reason I'm marking it down is because it doesn't hold the paint very well if the bristles aren't super, super wet. I think overall it's a great brush. So there you have it. 5 brushes that I think are pretty great. All right.